Pico.
Here we go. So was there a way to share screen?
Yeah, I think I gave me the German company. I believe that there is a reminder. Yeah. I really, they make some really good wool too. This is.
Yeah. Right in here. Share screen and you go to one of your well, you need to join the yeah, you have to join the escape. Out of here.
Got it. Yeah. And I may have to go larger, I don't know, longer. I'll stretch it down. Yeah.
I don't know if Dave wants to stick around this long.
Hang on 1 second. We'll get started in just a minute. I don't know if I'm supposed to make an announcement out there, am I?
I couldn't tell you.
A lot of people will just say,
Why not? Yeah. No, that's an offer. I've actually never done that. Yeah, so,
pardon?
I just.
I don't know.
I just got everything there. Okay. So you know what you have to. No, but that's not right.
No, borax and sugar makes a good antidote.
That's not right.
Happened that. We stayed at the campground and the site we had was on top of the hill.
I don't have that.
And I tried several things. I candy, but I didn't like it.
Yeah, I'm like this.
You're on Canvas, Smile, you're on Canvas.
Oh, yeah. I have a question that, if anybody knows here. You're on the big team, right? I've heard, or it's been said that black plastic isn't recyclable. Is that the plastic bags? Is that the hard plastic?
But the plastic,
Plastic.
I've heard that you can't recycle them.
But which type? Is it bags or hard plastic?
No, it's
Bags. They won't. You can take your bags to like festival, they've got a big bin for you to put your plastic.
Right, right. Black plastic.
Well, but the black, I never seen a plastic bag.
I thought I heard something about black plastic.
Black,
It doesn't
black
make
is-
any difference?
black is just colored.
It doesn't make any difference.
No.
Well, that's weird. Yeah, here at church, it was a couple of years ago, and I never could
Somebody
figure
said that
out
you
what,
Could
No,
recycle black.
couldn't. That black plastic was not recyclable.
Plastic generally, the clear plastic bag stuff it's not gonna decompose. And it's-
Right, I know
and
that
it's-
goes separate.
And it's not
They
recyclable,
don't take them.
except the plastic that, there are a few places that will take it, but like our city, will not take it.
Right, right. That I
They'll sort
know.
it all out.
Right, I know, like, Pick and Save and Festival have spots where
They've
you
got
can
the
leave
bins,
them off.
yeah.
That I know. But I've heard black.
Well,
So
I
I've
have
often
a
wondered,
bunch
what's that, because I've been throwing black plastic out.
I have a bunch of those. Oh, person dinners come in,
Yeah,
and I don't think the black ones are.
It depends on how they're marked, because plastic can be any color. So it just depends on how they are marked.
Special
Well,
area.
somewhere I heard that we couldn't do that.
The black trays, the food trays in general are tough. They don't want foods unless they're really clean. So
okay.
now you're flipping between do I recycle the plastic or do I use the water?
Right, right.
So you get a horse apiece.
Right, it depends on what, sometimes it takes a lot of water to clean, sometimes not so much.
Yep.
It depends.
So you throw them in with the pots and pans when you're scrubbing and
Wash them that
wash
way.
them that way.
That's what I've done.
Yeah. But if they're marked properly, I forget what the
I do
numbers
too.
are that the city will accept. I thought it was 1 through 5.
I don't remember anymore either. We went through the recycle center a few years back.
I asked my phone and it said the reason we say no to black plastic is because recycling facilities sort plastic by bouncing a beam of light off them. Since black plastic absorbs light, it can't be sorted and goes straight through the system and off to the landfill or incinerator.
So the rigid plastic,
Yeah,
put in the garbage.
yeah.
Unfortunately. That's what
I tend to put
I
everything
wanted to get that-
questionable in my recycling, figuring that they can sort it out on that end.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if the rules change and they start taking it, then I have to rethink my whole process. I just put everything in.
It's easier to keep going with something.
Right.
So do you want me to start it from the beginning?
Yeah, right.
They're showing like, it looks like the harder.
You can't not have to.
Yeah.
The hard
Yeah,
plastic.
that's the hard part.
Because
You
if
can't
you're
not have to
putting,
keep
you know,
moving.
like it's like already so I'm kind of plastic, like a plastic bag.
Yeah.
Oh, he's.
It's already sorted.
What
I
happened?
just want to be able to.
Let me see.
So I would,
It doesn't matter.
it wouldn't be like,
Yeah.
like it'd be sort of like when you have the bigger plastic with your newspaper is with your, you know, that other stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas
Is it
plastic
coming
bags
from
are.
here?
He came back for about 3 years.
It
He came
is.
back in the
Why
spring
is
to
it-
show us he was around.
Oh,
He had a-
that's okay.
It's okay.
Because
Drop patch on
you'll
his,
stop sharing the
down one
screen.
eye.
I'm not sure that,
he was
okay, I don't know
quite
if I
heavy.
can
and
see
he-
that. I probably
on his
can't.
face,
Let's
there's
go.
a little tiny tatty
Okay.
here.
That should not happen.
So it's time to,
You need a book or something?
but he's probably,
No, do you know how to admit her? Uh-huh. You just.
I think in the wintertime, he may have
I
lived
have
in
to
the
use it.
step
That's fine.
in our backyard.
Okay, how many more of those will I have to do?
I, our
And
last
Jerry's
project
in?
was 17,
No, I'm not gonna use this.
I think
so.
She's afraid. No, it'll slide off.
No.
and
Put that scan
there's
on and this one up
stories of
there.
cats living in the 30
You guys.
minutes.
Okay, got it. Okay, doors closed. Welcome, everybody. All the people who have the cleaning responsibilities are here today, I see. I want to begin by introducing myself. Darlene Berry, longtime middle school teacher. So if I start treating you like you're in 8th grade, I apologize in advance. I also want to put out there into the world, I am one of 3 Green Team chair people. And just because I'm on the green team doesn't mean every single thing in my life is green all the time. So if you see me coming out of Festival Foods with some plastic bags, it's not my fault. It's because they just put all my stuff in a plastic bag before I say, hey, wait a minute, no plastic bags for me. My husband will be the first one to tell you that when I don't do something green, he chastises me. He says, that's not very green, Darlene. So today we're here to talk a little bit about how we can try to reduce some of the chemicals in our day-to-day life. That's essentially what we're doing, and this is who we are. We are the Presbyterian Green Team. We are people who are concerned about living in a healthier environment. We are people who are looking for sustainable answers to chemical habits that we've formed over the years. And some people like to call us earth lovers, tree huggers, or befrienders. Whatever you want to call yourself, you're here because you have a little bit of maybe knowledge and maybe a little bit of passion about the world that you live in. And again, here's my 8th grade English teacher coming out. I was a teacher when learning targets were a big deal, so this slide remained. I didn't want to take it out. One of our learning targets is to improve the environment. We want to make the environment more hospitable to everybody who's in it. We want to improve our health. We're going to learn a little bit about chemicals and why they are in our environment the way they are. We want to maybe save a little money. Some of the products that you see on the table before you, some of them are a little more pricey than others, but they're all products or many of them are products we're familiar with. And then finally, we want to save time. You know, a lot of the chemical products that have come our way are there because it's faster, it's easier, it's better. And sometimes faster, easier, and better isn't always good for the environment. And so we'll talk about how we can make those adjustments. Why are we so concerned about this in the first place? After World War II ended in 1945, there was kind of a media blitz that sort of hit the country. A lot of things happened during the war. There were lots of developments across the planet or around the planet. Obviously, nuclear weapons being one of them, but World War II and World War I, that's when we started with the airplanes and chemical warfare and a lot of those things. Scientists and the corporations wanted to maybe use for us to make our lives better. They were trying to figure out ways, how can we use all of this knowledge and intelligence that we've gained in this wartime situation to live a better life. And so they started working in the schools, and science was a class that even the girls could take. We were going to do things that would help our hair be better, put the chemicals in your shampoo. We were going to clean a little more efficiently. We were going to benefit our families, benefit our mind, benefit our body. All of these chemicals that were coming into the world were there for a reason. Some of the advertising, I think, I get a big kick out of it because it says, it's cereal, it's dandy, or eat it like candy. And that's essentially what you were putting into your body when you were eating Sugar Crisp. The advertisers also started using words that a lot of us didn't even understand because we weren't scientists. So you would see phosphorine for extra vitality. You would see things like, well, this says sulfuro and it's going to help you clean better. And then the Wizard of Oz, I thought this was a very clever ad. You can see the chemist on the top and Fomex. They were going to use these plastics and oils to create this new kind of material that we would be sitting on all the time in our chairs. And so we're going to have it all around us, these chemicals. And then finally, and I like this one too, because she's so beautiful, isn't she? But she's putting irium all over herself, and who knows what irium is? I don't know, and I don't know if I'd want that on me. You know, in retrospect, I'd have to go look that up to find out what that is. The ads also bombarded us all the time with things that today we would be shocked. Here you have the mom, and what is she doing? She's getting Coca-Cola to her baby. How soon is too soon? Why, we have the youngest customers in the business. So give your kid that 7-Up. You know, look, it looks like he just came out of the spot bar downtown. And they're all so happy and beautiful, aren't they? So those ads had an impact on all of us. We got so accustomed that we would look out at our plants and boom, there they are, being covered with chemicals, keeping the bugs away. We were so excited that this is actually an actual photograph, and it looks like the kids are celebrating the 4th of July, but actually they're chasing a DDT truck through the neighborhood that is spraying for mosquitoes. And they're like, woohoo, let's go run in the smoke. Let's see how that goes with it for us. And where are those kids today, right?
All down the block.
Those chemicals ended up in our food as colorants, things that would be preservatives. I don't know what metabisulfate is. I don't know what a lot of these things, I can't even pronounce them. Cyclamate, aspartame, sodium benzoate, erythrocene, cyclamate. I'm assuming those are colorants and preservatives and things that make them hold their shape, perhaps. I don't know. But they also showed up as GMOs, which some people feel like, well, if it's genetically modified, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is that really a chemical change? I'm not a scientist, and again, I told you I was a middle school teacher, so this is, to me, GMOs may have a benefit. I don't know enough about it to share that, but that's what's happening throughout this time. Now, in 1961, women were given an aspirin so that they could not have morning sickness during their pregnancies. And that seemed like a really good idea. Who wants to throw up for 9 months, right? But by 1962, they started making a connection with that chemical, thalidomide, and they ultimately banned it because this sweet little girl and all of her counterparts began showing up with birth defects, and they traced that back to the thalidomide. And now women aren't given that, and the effects of that particular chemical are no longer seen. Also during that time,
Actually, thalidomide is back in use as a major treatment for multiple myeloma.
oh, it is,
It's actually
but that's a cancer
extremely
treatment, yeah.
effective in treating certain kinds of cancer.
Right, but you wouldn't give that to a pregnant woman.
No, it's not, we don't use it for morning sickness. though.
Right.
But actually, it turned out to be an extremely useful drug.
Right, and I think, I guess some of the chemicals that again, this is what I worried about, Nicole. I'm not here to say that all the chemicals that we use are bad or anything like that, but a lot of them, we don't always know the whole story. How long did it take them to realize that thalidomide could be used as a treatment for
It was
cancer?
about the year 2000 is when.
So you're
20
looking
years
at,
ago.
yeah, 62 was when they banned it, and that's a good, almost 40 years, 38 years. Plus my math, I didn't teach math. I got that. Also at the same time, they were noticing in the environment that there were fewer and fewer bald eagles, and until Rachel Carson wrote her book Silent Spring, they were just kind of like, what's going on with these eagles? She realized that the DDT that they were spraying for the mosquitoes was getting into the bugs. The eagles were eating the bugs were ending up in these eagles' bodies, and then they would lay their eggs, and the shells were getting thinner and thinner, and they were crushing their own infants. And so her book, Silent Spring, talked about the effects of these chemicals on just what we hear in our backyards and just what's happening with the birds. And so ultimately, in 1962, DDT was banned. Now, that's the early 60s. It took another 8 years before the Environmental Protection Agency was actually developed and began to take a look at all of these things. And again, it's not to say that all chemicals are bad, but it's just taking a look at them and seeing why are we using them and how are we using them and how are we marketing them, right? Because I would think marketing thalidomide as a cancer treatment seems rational. That seems like something we would want to happen. But maybe not for morning sickness. So we just, the EPA is responsible for those kinds of things. Now, from the 1980s to today, a lot of things have been happening. There were a lot more negative headlines about the effects of those chemicals, pesticides, Agent Orange, dioxins, bisphenol A in plastics, which I think in my head, that seems to be one of the most prevalent. If you look at my table, these are the samples I brought in, but look how much plastic is out there. And that still kind of sits at the back of my head all the time. Time Magazine reported in 2019 that they now have a new method for testing for BPA, but they're still finding that there's 44 times the level of toxin as the older tests were saying. Yeah.
What I heard was that they've stopped, for the most part, stopped BPA. They went to a different form as a relative of BPA.
Mm-hmm.
So are we in the clear? I don't know.
Yeah, again, it's something that people like us who are concerned, we just really need to be aware of that, and we need to be, if we find something out, we need to share it with other people.
Right.
Like I'm always talking to my girls, they use an inordinate amount of plastic bags, and can't you use reusable containers? I'm constantly on their case about it. And they are younger and maybe aren't, they don't know a lot of people who have passed away or who've had symptoms or problems, although they are finding that. I really feel like it's kind of I'm in a position where I want to tell people what I know, and they're not always really interested in hearing. I'm real happy to see that you guys are interested in hearing. I don't know that much, but what I know I can share. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development reported in 22 that plastic consumption has quadrupled. And as I said, my kids are doing it. When I go to festival, they fill my bag and fill my bag and fill my bag. And unless I'm standing right there and go, I turn around and now there's 19 plastic bags in my cart. Even if I've got a bag of bags on my shoulder, they used to ask, paper or plastic, they don't anymore. You have to say that. And then finally, over the last 10 years, humans are producing and consuming more plastic than the entire 20th century. It's just, we just can't, you can't quit plastic. I don't know what that's all about. We have this cute little baby. And that sticker seems to be the only thing that we use to protect it. How many of you remember this little guy, Mr. Yuck? Yeah, so Mr. Yuck is really, we would just say, okay, just if it has a green sticker on, don't touch it. But they're still, there they are crawling around in our cabinets. And I don't know, I used to put those little locks on my cabinets, which is a good thing. But wouldn't it be better if we didn't even have to worry about it? They could just go in there and play, keep that stuff higher.
On the topic of plastic, the other thing is the number of items that have food in them that are meant to be put in the microwave. And I have a policy of mine that it's glass.
Mm-hmm. Or paper.
Yeah, or some form of a hard surface or something like that, but never.
And I remember
Eat anything
when my
in
children were
plastic.
small, that's how I fed them. I put the little plastic bag in, filled it with a little formula. I put the whole thing in the microwave. I was just dumping that bisphenol A down their throats, you know? So people are
Between
still
Charlotte and
using
Henry,
them.
They switched, that's when the BPA
Yeah.
stuff came out, because I switched bottles. We got like recalled, like if you bought stuff within a certain time frame that I could send it back, and that they would send me ones that didn't have the BPA in it. So I remember like switching all that, all the bottles were plastic, and I know some people switched right away to glass, but I was like, I cannot handle glass bottles.
Well, my
Like, I'm
mother
just
always
impressed
had
myself.
glass, and now my daughters have all glass.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, in the blurb, I said some of those things that were old are now new again. And we're gonna talk about some of the older products that some of you might recognize on the table, and how some of those are coming back into the public realm, because people are realizing that they weren't that bad to begin with. But look at all that plastic. Oh, it's just everywhere. We just can't get it away. You know, we say we're gonna I'll just throw it away, but there really is no away. It doesn't just end up in the landfills. It ends up everywhere. Average American's throwing away 185 pounds of it a year. It takes 20 to 500 years to decompose, depending on the light and the exposure. The chemical residue from plastics just doesn't go away. It'll last a long, long time. And except for the small percentage that is incinerated, which then it ends up in the air, every piece of plastic that was ever made is still there, still in the environment. It breaks down into these little tiny microplastics. I think I coined a new word, because every time I type it, it comes up as a misspelling, or it's not a word, but I call them micropollutants, because they're in the water. The fish eat them, and then when the fish eat them, then we eat the fish, and then it goes into us, and then we excrete it, and it goes back into the system, and they just keep going through. So there's three main types. Sue and I did a little research. There's three main types of microplastics. They break small, and they say, oh, there's nothing in there, but it's all still there. It's a kind of an oil compound. So there's styrene monomer, styrene dimer, and styrene trimer. I think those are oil compounds. I really don't know. Those are the words that came up. And both Sue and I were like, whatever that is, it's going into all of us.
Like synthetic oils, you mean?
Well, the plastic, so like, you can see those bags, they'll break down and they'll get small, and all of a sudden they'll just be like little powdery things, but it's still plastic. The compound remains, the chemical that makes the plastic remains. And if I'm incorrect, please correct me, but that's my
Even
understanding.
the car has synthetic oil now. It's not
Mhm.
the old petroleum type product. Well,
Right.
plastic is a petroleum
Product,
but
exactly.
They're calling it synthetic oil. So what is that about? So
It's made from natural gas. Synthetic oil is, it's made from natural gas.
for vehicles, for the oil, really?
There's
Germans
different
invented it,
additives or different
actually.
things in it, but
During World War II,
Oh.
by any chance?
Yeah, they invented it.
See?
Okay.
Right.
So they figured out a way to turn natural gas into synthetic oil.
Yeah. Also, it doesn't just end up in the landfills. Sadly, we've seen it wrapped around our animals, choking out sea life and the plants. It ends up just in our waterways. and it's being eaten and processed and killing so many things. There's a movie called Trashed, if you ever have an opportunity to watch it. It's narrated by Jeremy Irons. I think we have a copy of it in the library. Yeah, we did. It's very, very good, but it gives you an idea of, you know, just the scope of how much there is. It was too much. From the 1950s today, again, bear with me because I told people it felt like I was going to testify before Congress and they were going to beat me down because my facts might not be all in line. So if these don't seem in line to you, I'm happy to hear anything that you might know that's different. Uh-oh, something's happening there. It says share. That's where we have to be human, right? That's the word. Let's see if that works. There we go. So what we thought was just this wonderful delivery of wonderful things in the 1950s has really turned into something that we're not really happy
That
about.
is disgusting.
I know.
I never saw that one.
Yeah, the best things in life come in cellophane wrapped up in a little bit of death.
And there's all kinds of connotations to that picture. It's just
Right.
horrible.
Right? Yeah. That's a DuPont commercial though. That's a chemical company. And they, you know, their job is to put themselves out in the best foot forward and, you know, here you go, here's your little baby. Give them some Coca-Cola and let them crawl under the covers.
It's safe in plastic.
Yeah. So here are some things that we know. The studies by the Consumer Report Safety Commission show that 150 chemicals found in the average home are linked to allergies, asthma, cancer, birth defects, respiratory illnesses, and psychological abnormalities. And that number could possibly be higher now. Again, this slideshow, I resurrected it and I tried to update it as much as I could. The EPA also reported to Congress in the early 1980s that chemical fumes and residues found in our home make us 3 to 4 more times likely to develop cancer. This is the beauty industry, which I think is very interesting to look at. The average number of chemicals in shampoo is 15, eyeshadows 26, lipstick 33 chemicals, nail varnish 31 chemicals, fake tanning 22 chemicals. It's a lot of chemicals you're slathering on yourself. And a lot of them have not been assessed for their impact on human health or the environment. And I think that's what I would just rather avoid then. If you don't know, why should I put it on my body? Why should I use it?
Don't we have a different standard than like Europe? I mean, theirs is more stringent.
I believe so. Even with our EPA, the EPA is continually challenged by corporations. That's why voting matters. Do we want a stronger EPA or a weaker EPA? Do we want stronger regulations or fewer regulations? You know, those are all questions we as consumers who are bombarded with this advertising, we have to ask those things of ourselves and we have to try to make the best decisions and choices that we can. Sometimes we choose with our pocketbook, right? What we buy. You don't need to feel bad because I don't know that it's anybody's fault that this is happening, and that's why you're here. You want to find out more. I used to use this when I sold products, so I'm trying not to talk about my product, but you can retrain yourself. If there's something that you want to try differently, I have put in my car all of my plastic coffee cups, so whenever I go somewhere, if I'm wanting coffee, I have a clean one, and then I bring it in the house and I kind of have this rotating cup thing so that I'm not using plastic cups from various places anymore. So you can retrain yourself if you want to. 21 times they say we'll make it a routine, but I suppose that's different for everyone. Uh-oh. What happened there? Something happened. How do I go back? Try the back button. They're up high. I think I am screen sharing. Oh, you're so smart. Once I get through the next few slides, I have about 3 or 4 more slides, then I want to kind of turn it over to everyone here and let you talk. I want to share tips. I have a few things that I have to hand out. I want to encourage green living. I'm assuming many of you already try green products. I want you to educate your children, like I try to, I really do. They're their 30s and it's a hard road to hoe. Get cost savings. If you know of something that's cheaper than what I have out here or better cost savings, let us know. Try to get your home to be known as a green home, and let's get the FPC members branded as green. I mean, I think we're trying, and we seem to be doing a pretty good job. But I'd like to get everybody on this boat. There's cleaning and then there's green cleaning. So there's a definition of cleaning from Webster, which means to get rid of dirt, impurities, and extraneous matter. Green cleaning is the choices that you make on how to do that, minimizing the trade-off for efficacy of the product. As the technology changes, so too will the products change. Some of them are tried and true. Vinegar is still vinegar and it still works, but there are people that are incorporating vinegar in different ways in their home. Green cleaning products will utilize oils and essences and non-toxic chemicals of plants to effectively clean. That's kind of what the difference is. No matter what you're wiping down, whether it's a counter with water and soap or a natural cleaning wipe or a disinfectant wipe, you're cleaning. That's what's happening. These cleaners can be room specific. They can be fixture specific, you know, your toilet, your shower, your bathtub. They can be surface specific, your tiles, your marble, granite, wood. And most of the time, you don't need to spread harmful chemicals around to get something deep down clean. And then I was talking about the difference between sanitizers and disinfectants with a few people earlier, because with the COVID coming around, everybody's kind of went on this, got to get it clean. Sanitizers are regulated by the EPA, as are disinfectants. They have to be tested against specific bacteria and germ, and they might require a specific amount of time to kill the germs. However, a sanitizer will reduce the germs and either kill or remove the bacteria to a safe level, and they're often used in food service settings. That's what a sanitizer will do. The disinfectants also are regulated, also have to be tested. They also require a specific amount of time to kill the germs, and that's indicated on the product label. These wipes, like the wipes that we like to get, Lysol wipes, and we wipe the table and then we go, yay, or we're in a restaurant and they go, and then they go like that, and they're like, here, now eat your food. If you look closely on those bottles, you will learn that in order for it to be disinfected or even sanitized, that surface needs to remain wet 6 to 10 minutes. Wet. So like if you are going to wipe with a Lysol wipe, first of all, it has to get wet, and usually it doesn't. It just kind of gets that little smear on it. And then it has to stay wet. You can't wipe it off. And that does not happen in a restaurant. That does not happen when we use those wipes. I don't like to have them. I did bring some 7th generation there, but so we could look and kind of compare, and we can do that maybe later. But
I just want to add, Charlotte, for her 6th grade science fair project, compared Lysol wipes to another product that I love. But when you read the directions on Lysol wipes, it also says only in one direction and do not go back. So like when you just did this,
yeah,
like that's how everyone uses those kind of things. You're just spreading
smearing
it
it
around.
around.
Whereas it's wanting you to like go in one direction and like, I don't know, it's interesting.
Oh, because
to
you're
actually
pushing
read
it
the
all to this.
directions.
Yeah.
Right,
Who does that?
right.
Who does that?
Yeah,
That's
we're
right.
like, oh, it's convenient, I'm just gonna wipe this down, but you know.
So you do
actually
have to read the directions, and you do have to know the difference between whether you're disinfecting or sanitizing.
And that's the asterisk next to kills 99% of bacteria. if
I
you
think
do
it says right on the
exactly
top of
way.
the bottle there, there's a little green washing, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So it says, this one says kills 99% of germs botanically. But then when you go and you read how that happens, it's
Yeah.
a little sketchy. The disinfectants will kill a larger variety of microorganisms than sanitizers do, including things that are effective against COVID-19, if they're used properly. I think the last one, it says they might have a high alcohol content that helps break down cell proteins. So I'm not sure if that refers to the cell proteins in our body or the cell proteins like from chicken grease and that sort of thing that on your counter.
Both.
Both, yeah, I suppose both. But I think it's worth noting that there is a difference between those two words. I also had a little moment last night where they were like, what does natural mean? I was like, really? I have to go back to natural. It's not a regulated term. So if you see natural on something, that doesn't necessarily mean that it contains only natural ingredients. Natural is not a regulated term. It means that a company can add rosemary to a toxic stew of chemicals and say that it contains natural ingredients. They're not
Most of
lying.
the time, the word natural has an asterisk too.
Right.
And will say, speaking only to this particular product within
Mhm.
the
And-
mix.
And that's why reading the label is so important. They do suggest that you look for certain words. So learning to read the label is very important. I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget to say it. Not all types of natural ingredients are non-toxic. Just because it's derived from plants or otherwise found in nature doesn't mean that it's not harmful to humans. Arsenic, botulism toxin, and urushiol, which is the active ingredient in poison ivy. They're all natural substances, but you sure don't want them in your body lotion, right? And then when you are looking for a natural cleaning product, these are some words that you'll want to look for: non-toxic, cruelty-free, biodegradable, and so on. The words we're familiar with. And then I keep telling you to look at the label, but there is this phenomenon known as greenwashing, which we've talked about a little bit, you and I have. It is real. There are certain things you can look for: unscented, free of, non-toxic, biodegradable. And although those terms are also unregulated, they are more specific. And so the consumer protection laws will be applied a little more stringently. The Federal Trade Commission has green guides that help brands and their marketers understand how they can qualify their claims. Another thing to do is to look for third-party certifications, and I have a list of these for you. I'm going to hand this out if you didn't already get that. Third-party product certifications can help you avoid a little bit of greenwashing. You can look for these labels.
Thank you.
That means it's been thoroughly tested and it's found to meet rigorous industry standards for things like environmental impact, chemical use, and sustainability in their packaging. Now, when you switch to natural choices, things change a little bit. The hardest part is getting started, knowing what to recognize. But if you do this, you can look forward to using a little extra muscle. You might feel like a natural cleaner isn't going to clean as well as other cleaners do. It might not perform quite the way you wanted it to. Sometimes you have to scour a little harder. You have to scrub a little longer, and you'll get the results you're after. But if you think about it, the energy you expend in elbow grease, you make up for in clean air and a clean environment, and maybe you even get a little more muscle. You'll get a satisfied feeling if you try these natural options. The green brands will tend to give a portion of their profits to organizations and initiatives that educate, advocate, and support for clean environments. Certified B corporations are things you can look for. These are companies that balance their profit with a purpose, using their power, their platform, their pocketbook as a global force for good.
What did you call it? Certified?
Certified B corporations.
The letter B or?
The letter B. No, the letter B. Good question. Certified B corporations. And then most of, yes.
I have a question. I see you got 6 or 7 products up there that has green on it.
Mhm.
Is that a product that?
But this is a good question. These are ones that over the years I've used, and I'm not going to advocate for anything today. I'm just going to, that's where I wanted to hear from all of you. I know what I like to use and what makes me feel comfortable. In fact, this is my basic age. This is from Stanley. Visible means used to sell this, and this is the last bottle I bought from her. You can see I only have it very concentrated. And it says right on here, it's a house, it's non-polluting, non-flammable, concentrated, back here, organic cleaner, highly concentrated, versatile, safe, recommended dilutions, any type of material. No phosphates or nitrates that harm the environment. Surfactants or cleaning agents are biodegradable, break down naturally, and help eliminate suds or foaming problems in the lakes and streams.
Dave, are you
That's a
noting the
shack.
fact that it's green, like the
Oh, the
color green,
bottom.
to
Right,
make
the
you
color
think that
green.
it's green?
And it's
Yeah,
like
good
if I
point.
went to the store and I'm looking for some, all of a sudden there's.
Yeah, and then
green
there's
bottles.
this leaf, and then it says buy, and there's a word.
Marketing.
On the lid.
Oh, yeah,
Marketing.
okay.
And that's
So,
Shackley, not,
Whatever,
you
yeah,
said Stanley.
yeah.
oh, the yellow one is Stanley, the blue one is Shackley. This is one that Paul Harvey forever promoted. It's called Simple Green. It's an all-purpose cleaner. I use this one outside. I use this on my grill and my shovels and things that I want to clean outside. But this one has a lot of those kind of remarks as well. You can use it in the laundry. You can use it to get rid of stains. Biodegradable, safe alternative to toxic cleaners, solvents, and bleaches. Removes grease, oil, carbon, dirt, blah, 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 blah. Precautions. Not dispose of degrease and rinse safe.
Yeah, read the label.
Yeah, there's a lot on there. There's a lot on Simple Green, but these three in particular are things that like my mom and dad, and Borax is another one, so is the Arm and Hammer. Some of those are things that have just been around for a long, long time, and people have really used them.
Like baking soda.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Last thing I want to say is sustainable packaging, most authentic, natural, or eco-friendly cleaners come in packaging that is sustainably sourced and biodegradable, compostable, or recyclable. Concentrated formulas usually come in smaller containers, and some companies sell refills that fill your original container 2 or 3 times, and that reduces the waste also. Now, I put a few things out here. Starting at the front, this is kind of laundry stuff and cleaning. We were talking about, instead of using the laundry sheets, you want to consider using a roll dryer ball. You can get these, I sell them, but you can get them Target, TJ Maxx, what was
Yeah,
it?
everywhere.
Everywhere, you can
Yeah.
everywhere.
Question, Darlene?
Yes,
What's the difference between a cleaning vinegar and just a big gallon of regular
I
white
think it's-
vinegar?
I think it's a percentage, well, and then I think it's a percentage of some active ingredient like.
Food sourcing is also another one. Just
Yeah,
the-
there's,
The processing of the material has to meet an FDA requirement to be a food sourced vinegar, whereas a cleaning vinegar can be processed less expensively in a non-FDA environment.
there you go.
I mean, just-
That's why Gil is my man here
Just
today.
plain white vinegar by the
Yeah.
gallon.
Every bit is good, and I only brought that because it's smaller.
Don't substitute.
I only brought that because it was so small.
So you can use cooking vinegar for cleaning, but don't use cleaning vinegar.
There you go, there you go. Sue makes her own laundry detergent out of borax, washing soda, Bell's naphtha soap. And we looked up borax to find out what was in there, and I think we found out it's called sodium carbonate. Is that what was in the borax? Sodium carbonate?
But they were.
Essentially forms of salt.
Right.
Yeah.
I use borax for getting rid of creeping Charlotte and mix it with water.
Does it work?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that will go on our weed killer.
Wait, there's a way. You can't use it very often, you could end up killing everything. If you-
Yeah.
There is a
You
tipping
do it
point
first time, right, but give
of
it a couple
using it
weeks.
at a formula, and I don't have it memorized.
And you found it out the hard way.
Does it work?
This is,
Really, but we did get rid of the creeping Charlotte.
this is a laundry sheet.
Not all of it, but.
So this is, you throw this in your machine, this is laundry detergent right here.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, have you tried it?
I have, and they're very nice.
They work? Okay.
Yeah, every bit as good as any other.
And you don't have a big jug of plastic to do that?
Nope, and they don't smell. I don't like any smell on my laundry. I don't want to smell like a dryer sheet when I'm walking around town. I don't smell. like me. This is a natural ingredient. This is orange oil Wulong. It's just really the oil from the orange peel. Something you can make on your own. Hydrogen peroxide is another good thing to mix with recipes. As I mentioned, there are some companies that we already know that are working on this. BioClean, Arm & Hammer, Old English, if you've ever used Old English wood cleaners, those are relatively vetted. Simple Green, Young Living has a lot of cleaners, thieves oil. Sorry about that. Should have maybe answered that earlier. I am not so convinced with Method and Seventh Generation. These are the two that you can get in the grocery store. They're not bad. They use enzymes to clean, but they do have a lot, their packaging leaves a lot to be desired. So that's what my concern is with these two companies. Yeah.
I'm finding my husband's allergic, terribly allergic to sodium lauryl sulfate. So we look at the labels really well. I'm finding more and more are not putting on the products what's in them. You have to go to their website.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it'll say surfactants. Well, his only sodium lauryl sulfate is one surfactant, or it will say, other things, but it just gives the generic term. It doesn't say specifically what it is. So you have to go online to look at the labels more and more. If it says biodegradable, what is that telling you? I mean,
Well, the one thing I did want to mention is you don't necessarily need cleaning products if you have good tools. So I am a big fan of hot water and then either a cotton towel or a cotton cloth. One of the ladies in church, I think, makes these. And then a good polishing cloth. This is a microfiber polishing cloth. Now, we were talking about cleaning windows earlier, and everyone's like, oh, I have this recipe for window cleaner. I have another thing. And it's like, don't even use it. Use hot water, a good towel, and a good wipe. Now, when I worked for a cleaning company for the longest time, and ironically, I cleaned a dentist office. They told me only clean mirrors and windows with newspaper. Okay, and this to me is a better option than newspaper because I don't have to have newspaper lying around my house. So if you can find a good polishing cloth and a good microfiber, that's what you need to clean windows. That's all you need. And hot water. You don't need a window spray. You don't need a Simple Green. You don't need any of that. So the fewer cleaners you have, or the more you use hot water, the better off you're going to be. In my opinion, that's the way I feel about it. That doesn't mean I don't have cleaners. Obviously, I have them, but I've had the grease. That's I've had for at least 10 years. I've had this for at least 15 or 20 years. I know I moved that in when Bill and I got married, so I still use it occasionally when I come across something really tough, but not very often. When I clean myself, I use a bamboo toothbrush. I was teasing that when I was a little girl, we only used bar soap, and being 6 out of 7, I was the one who always ended up with the little kind of piece that was left on top, and I had to kind of scrape it off. And somebody is making big bucks off of that because they're selling it in little boxes now as bottle-free soap. So this is a face liquid. And when I got it, I was like, oh, so you just peel this little piece off and you get it wet and wash your face instead of pumping it out of a big plastic bottle. And it's covered in plastic? No, this is just a tiny little sheet of soap, like the piece that I used to scrape off the soap thing in the house when I was a little kid. Yeah.
The soap dish.
Yep. Well, with 7 kids, we had to use it until it was gone. That's what my dad said. Use it till it's gone. A friend of mine makes her own soap. So that's very, very nice. Okay. I think so. I think she uses just the typical recipe. This I got from the Presbyterian rummage sale, and I store my Q-tips that are not plastic in there. So you can go to a rummage sale and get some fancy little thing to store yours in. These are Bite toothpaste buds. So it's just a little tiny bud. Put that in your mouth and chew on it. I usually do it in the shower, chew on it, and then I take the bamboo toothbrush and I brush my teeth, spit it down. So if anybody wants to take 1 or 2 of these home and give it a try, feel free to do that. That's called BITE, Bite.
Where do you get those?
I get them online, and they come in a paper bag. They come in a paper There's no
Uptown
plastic.
Coffee sells some too. if you
Oh,
like
that's
it.
right, they do.
I got some there, yeah.
And then I have this little metal floss container because I don't want the little plastic, they have these little flosser things, so much plastic. But this little guy is metal, and you can get other variations on that too, polyfloss. This is very old school. This is what my dad and mom had, right? Same with razors. You just get a razor that's metal and change out the blades rather than plastic toss, plastic toss, plastic toss. There's no need for that. This is a microfiber face cloth. This is a microfiber scrubber. You probably have used loofahs. I kind of want to open up the rest of this 10 minutes maybe to what you might do. What do you do with your laundry? How do you get stains out? You were telling me with yours,
I have a bar of Bell's Naphtha soap that my mother-in-law told me about. And I can't tell you how many I've bought over the years, but it's just a bar of soap. And I just, take some water with it and gets out blood and grass stains and mud because I raised a little boy. And, but anyway, I actually take a little piece of it with me when I travel.
Club soda is another good cleaner. What do you use, Janet?
Nicole, you were talking some time ago about recycling, like tubes of toothpaste and stuff coming. Did that ever happen?
No, we talked about it right before COVID, and I personally have a bag of all this stuff that I was like, well, if we resurrect this, it's good to go. But yeah, that can be recycled through TerraCycle.
You also had a recipe for laundry soap, and I don't think I put it in here anywhere. Sorry. I
If
did,
anybody wants it, just come and see me.
yeah.
It's pretty simple.
And then when you're cleaning, just cleaning around your house, again, vinegar, soda, enzyme. I have some enzyme products that I use, but I'm not a fan of the plastic that they come in, so I've kind of scaled back on my purchasing of these items. I just kind of want to use them up and be done with it. There is a handout that I gave you that talks about how you can move from chemicals to not chemicals. So it's how to switch. You can do a monthly swap, replace as you go, prioritize and replace, and do a complete overhaul. I'm the replace as you go. I'm gonna use these up and then I'm not gonna purchase them anymore. It's on the back of the third party. Yeah, the third party.
So it's not stapled,
No.
it's just an individual sheet.
But this kind of gives you an idea of how to go about turning your life into a more green life.
So I don't sell anything, so I can talk from the heart, right? Can I talk from the heart? Okay.
I don't know, can you?
So after I moved here, I was introduced to a company called Norwex, and I had little teeny tiny children, and I always, that picture of the kid, like, I didn't like all these cleaners. I didn't like the idea of, I was raised with, well, it doesn't smell clean, like you can tell when somebody's cleaning, you walk into the house and it's just, and now when I go to my mom's, I'm like,
And it hurts your eyes.
and like the fabric softener and just everything, it's like, I'm not used to it. But to me, there's not a smell of clean. But I started with the microfiber cloths, and like now I have like a little cloth in each one of the bathrooms that the kids know to clean everything with. And so, like I said, Charlotte did this 6th grade science fair project. We cleaned the desks in a 6th grade classroom and the computers, and we did half of them with Clorox wipes and the other half with Norwex. And she did the whole testing. What we found was that it was completely similar as far as like we had, our oven was used for samples, little petri dishes for long to watch the growth. But so when I was explaining all this to my mom and telling her how I wipe down the, I don't, not inside, well, kind of inside the toilet, but I'll use the same cloth to clean the outside of my toilet, the rim of the toilet, the seat, the sink, all the, the floor, everything, and just keep rinsing out. And she's like, well, your sink has to be so dirty and has to be so gross from, she's like, sure, it can clean it, like, because the cloth is actually picking up that stuff. It doesn't have to remain wet. But so when she pointed out to me of, well, isn't your sink disgusting then? You know, I'm like, well, I clean the sink, you know, afterward, you know, whatever. She's like, that's gross. Well, I still had Petri dishes left over. So I swabbed the sink before I rinsed out the toilet cloth and then after, and there was no change in the amount of bacteria there. Now, the idea with these cloths is that there's silver in there that kills the bacteria, like
It holds.
it holds it and then it kills the bacteria as the cloth dries over the 24 hours. So eventually that bacteria that's on the cloth apparently dies. I didn't have any more Petri dishes left over to test the cloth because that would have been my next step of curiosity. But I found it very interesting to go, look, it's not disgusting.
Well, I
You
have
know?
the demo sticks. So if you're really interested, I can give you a couple of those demo sticks and you can test the cloth.
Okay.
Where you swab it before, you swab it during, you swab it after, and then crack it, and then it tells you how much.
Okay. Interesting.
So I'm also biased in thought, but I still believe that the hot water, any microfiber and any polishing cloth should do the job.
Where do you get microfiber?
You can get microfiber at Fleet Farm and Target, and I've seen them at the new TJ Maxx, Walmart.
Yeah.
I
Anyway.
like my
Oh,
microfibers because they have the silver in.
I never.
And I
paid
was
for 'em.
told that,
I thought I watched Fluffers a lot.
please, if this is an old wives' tale, correct me, but I was told that's why kings and queens ate off of silver plates because their silver is a natural, it kills bacteria naturally. That could be, no.
Just a question, you know, there's this idea that kids need to be exposed to a certain amount of dirt. If everything is overly sanitized, they have no ability to resist anything, so Larry, can you comment on that?
Well, there's some data to show that, for example, Hodgkin lymphoma is more common in families that don't have any pets. Pets provide a certain amount of disorder and dirt. And so there's some data, there is some data, it's mostly epidemiologic data, suggesting that a certain amount of dirt and disorder is actually beneficial. And we forget that only a very, very tiny fraction of microorganisms are pathogenic. I mean, the vast majority of all those things that you are culturing off your countertops are no harm to you at all. I mean, there is salmonella, of course, that could be a problem, but I mean, we're surrounded by microorganisms and only a very, very small number of them are potentially harmful.
But then why, I think the point of this is, if you can get rid of that with water, why do we need to throw a chemical on there? Why even do that? It just seems.
Because the company that makes the chemical doesn't sell water.
Right, exactly. It's all advertising. That was my first slide where the advertising blitz began. Yeah.
Excuse me, maybe I missed it, but was any talk about bleach?
I'm a user of bleach. I use it, but bleach is a chemical, yeah?
I mean,
It's not a natural.
It's an old-fashioned one.
yeah, it's an old
Old one.
cleaning thing.
And I think we know the effects of bleach. People know that they're not supposed to, ingest it. And it doesn't taste
Well,
good.
not everybody.
Not everybody.
It's not something you put on your crackers. It's not a chemical. It's a chemical that we regulated and we know how to use a little more.
I know the smell in the room, you
Yeah.
bleach.
Isn't Mr.
Someplace.
Clean bleach?
Mr. Clean,
Mr. Clean this, please?
I've
I
never
think
used
those
Mr. Clean.
sponges, but like.
Oh, yeah, those things.
Those things?
Yeah, like, I could be wrong, but I think there's something to, that's one of the, I mean, that's why it's like, oh, it's cleaning everything. Well, yeah, it's a different, but I could be wrong on that, but I know it's not like, I don't know. Like you said, it's not listed on the label of what makes this.
But what I think what, to Larry's point, I don't know that we're trying to make our world, antiseptic, like where there's nothing there. But we don't need to use chemicals as much as we do.
Right.
We don't have to have a window cleaner when water will work. We don't have to have all of this stuff in our hair so that we get the big Prel commercial and gonna wash that suds, right out of our hair. We don't need all that stuff. That's just a filler. That's an unnecessary chemical addition to a product that some company, as Jan points out, is trying to make money off. If you look at the laundry detergents, for example, you've got this bottle, this Tide bottle. There's probably this much of what's in there is gonna clean your clothes, and the rest is animal fats and fillers. It's just, and water.
Water.
Really, this is what you need to clean your clothes, this much of that. You don't need a big plastic bottle, and you don't need all those chemicals. That's not to say I don't want to clean my clothes, and it's not to say that, there are some chemicals that are useful even with thalidomide. I'm so happy to know that, and it makes me feel good. So I
Being an
guess,
informed consumer.
yeah, being informed and just trying to understand that, if you can make a greener choice, make a greener choice. Now, there are co-ops in Stevens Point, Madison, Ashland, where you bring in your container and they'll fill it for you with shampoo that's a good shampoo, or if you must have a cleaner, they'll have cleaners there for you. But I don't know that that's always necessary even. I have this I called it patio life because back. I get really frustrated when I go places and they have like plastic plates and plastic forks and plastic knives, and I'm like, why can't you just, I've got beautiful silverware and I've got beautiful glass dishes. If you break a glass dish, that's no skin off my back. But I would rather you break my glass dish than throw all that plastic away. I really would. I'd rather not see that. There's a lot of natural plants that'll keep our patios better for us in the summer. We can use a cloth table cover instead of a plastic one that we're gonna throw. And then they go, oh, you don't have to clean, you just throw it away. You're still cleaning. You have to take the tablecloth off and throw it somewhere. Why not throw it in the laundry and just wash it? I just, some of that, whenever I put cloth napkins out for people, they'll look at me. I'm like, yep. But it's clean, I mean, it's not dirty. And when you make it dirty, I'll clean it again. So it's just a mindset. Sue and I talk a lot about our mindset. We have to almost take all that advertising and that, not greenwashing, chemical washing, and we just have to ask ourselves, is it really necessary to do it that way? Is this flower a weed, or is it a different kind of flower? Why are we throwing a chemical on? You said you use borax to get the creeping Charlie out. I don't like creeping Charlie either. I want it. My grandson asked me during the pandemic, Oma, why is this one a weed and that one's not a weed? And then I started saying, well, a weed is a plant that grows where you don't want it to grow, and certain things go here and certain things go there. And then I thought to myself, as I was saying it, I thought, that's kind of racist. It's really a racist concept. You get to go here, and you get to go there, and never the twain shall come together. Why? Why is that? We need to really think about what's in our head and how we're putting things together, and what we think of as beautiful and what we think of as clean and what we think of as useful in our lives. Composting, I threw that in there. I found a book about manure. The whole first chapter is just on manure. And then
I got a whole
our
garage full of stuff put in the
garage
compost when I can get out there.
I should say that Marshfield has approved no mow May, and our green team is going to be promoting no mow May. So please keep your eyes out for that. There are natural weed killers.
It is 12.
I know,
Yeah.
I'm
So
seeing
I'm
that.
saying if people leave, it's not because
It's
they're
okay.
not interested.
There's also the big ticket items. If you really want to go in another direction, use a bike instead of a car. If you're physically unable to do that, maybe an electric bike. Think about solar panels, hybrid vehicles, electric vehicles, and so on. I think that's my last slide.
Crazy.
Yep, that's it.
I just heard something that they might, people that don't install solar panels at home might be able to
Invest.
but yeah, in someplace else.
So like in the community, thanks, Jan. Like in the community solar panels, that'd be kind of cool. I really hope we can get an electric charger here on property at some point down the road.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for coming online. Whoever is there. It looks like Jerry, Lori, and Lori.
Thanks for the handouts. Those are great. It's so
Yes,
good.
thank you for the handout. Nice.
I can't remember everything that was said.
Well, I was thinking I'd be taking, for me, I'd be taking notes and I was like.
I
what do wanna
was,
do?
I
I'm looking up later too.
Thank you so much, Carmen.
Oh,
You've
yeah.
been such a big help.
No problem.
Now I don't know how to shut this all down though, so that's.
I bet Pastor Lori will.
I'm getting hungry.
Oh, thank you, Sue, for your moral support.
I didn't even have to.
I talked way more than I wanted to.
Kind of like that.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Are there
I
any
know a
other
guy who will
things
straighten
left?
out later.
All right. I'm gonna
I
move
put-
anyway when we're back.
All right.